I guess I'll start first. I'll open up by just congratulating Duncan Keith on getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, or getting named that he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best players of his generation, and a Blackhawks legend, and we're extremely happy and excited for him that he received that honor. And so congrats to him, and really excited for him and his family on receiving that induction. So, but I think tonight we were really happy with how it went. We were, three was we had a bunch of different. There's only so much that could happen at that stage, but we were ready for anything, and sort of what we thought was the most logical progression occurred, and so we were ecstatic with to get Anton. He's a power forward that can play down the middle or on the wing. I think he's a great complement to our group that we have now. I think he's got the chance to be a really exciting goal scorer in this league, just couldn't be more thrilled with adding him to the organization. And then with Nestorsil and Mason West, just two super high upside players that we do think have high end potential. That they can both move really well. They've got some really good talent, hockey sense. I think they're both raw. Got a longer runway to go, but really excited about what they can be and what we were able to add to the organization today.
Was there something about Mason has quite the interesting story
Yeah.
in playing? So was there something that you saw in him that you said, okay, let's talk with Carolina because you definitely wanted to try and get him before the first round?
I think it's just the tools, like the raw tools are just something you don't see that often, and he's probably available at that point because he's behind the curve. He's not quite dedicated himself 100% to hockey, but at that size, that athleticism, that skating ability, that talent, it's the sky's the limit, and we just felt it was, I just really wanted to get back into the first round to take, what I thought was a grand slam hack. I'm swinging for the fences, and figured why not? Let's go for a big one here, and so that's kind of what I did.
Is that similar to the mentality that you had when you drafted Sam Lindsell in 2022, where the tools were there, but it might be longer for him to actually get to the NHL?
Yeah, like the two sport thing is very different. Sam was, he was a hockey player, and Mason is a hockey player, but he also plays football, and so I think that speaks to he's very behind the curve. There's a lot of runway, but I think we've got a top-notch development staff that can really get in there and make him the best hockey player he can be. And I think there's tons of upside. He's planning on he's committed to Michigan State, which is we've got a lot of faith in that program. Adam Nightingale runs a hell of a hockey program there, and so we've had Artie come out of Michigan State, and so we're very familiar with them and what they do, and have all the faith in the world that he's going to end up at a really quality development situation.
Rondell, like any high-end pick, wants to be in the NHL next year. Is that feasible, or will he even be able to come to training camp if he's got to get into the Swedish Pro League?
I believe he'll be able to come to training camp. Yeah, it's probably contract situations and all that stuff that has to be figured out before that. But we'll see. I don't think we have any expectation one way or another. Right now, the plan as we stand here today is that he's playing in Djurgården in the SHL next year. But we've got a lot of time to figure out if that's the best path. I think it's a great path if that's the one that occurs. So we'll just kind of figure that out moving forward.
Was there a point where you were convinced that he was the guy that?
Like just for us, or that we were going to get him, because that was when they picked me. So,
But no, I guess during the season when you thought
yeah, like he was just always in that conversation, like right at the top there, and then after the lottery, when we figured out where we were and what the situation was, I think, it's a process, and we really went through it. But he was always a guy that was right at the top of our list for much of the year. He's in that that elite group right at the top of our draft board that you kind of debate all year long, and then in the end came out in his favor.
What do you like so much about him?
I just think he's a really smart hockey player. I think he uses his body very effectively, especially in battles along the wall. He just has a really projectable game to the NHL, and I think he plays the game the way that it's played, not only in North America on the small rink, but also in May and June. I think he plays very, heavy, hard, almost quote unquote playoff hockey. And so I think that's something that we were really excited to add. He can play a skill game, he can play a heavy game, he can play it any way you want. And so we're really excited about that.
You've made 11 first-round picks in the last 4 drafts.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just a numbers game, knowing that not everybody's going to hit, and you just take as many lottery tickets as you can, or do you look at them as assets that can be moved down the road? How do you look at that kind of?
I think you're, again, it's funny, like the draft in every way is a game of chance and a game of odds. I think there's some logic in that, and where we've picked a lot and we've gone volume, but also some of my things like, today, if you're playing the odds and playing, I don't know what you call it, the stats or the analytics of it, like the trade we made to get back in the first round was not that. That was, we got back in, but it's probably not I gave up probably a lot more to get back in to take Mason than, the charts would suggest. And that's okay. Sometimes we're willing to do that, and I'm willing to stick my neck out and really jump at a guy. But your observation about us making all those picks early it's kind of been part of the strategy, is that we want to hit it with volume and, believe that will prevail in bringing us the most number of players. And, I think the more you pick early in the NFL or any draft, NFL, NHL, it's late. Then it's you're more likely to succeed. And so we've taken that philosophy and tried to hit it with volume. But I also believe that, again, some of these players are getting to the NHL. Some of them are on their path. But I do believe, from our assessment, an objective assessment, we feel their development so far, we are ahead of the odds in some way. I think we are, beating the odds and getting a few more players out of drafts than, the odds may dictate. And so hopefully that continues. Hopefully the upward trajectory, bears that out and it continues. But we're really happy with how it's gone the last little while, and, added 3 more players that we're really excited about today.
Did you give any thought to the size of these forwards?
It just kind of worked out that way, actually. It wasn't something that we were directly targeting. It wasn't, we got to get all big forwards or anything like that. Just worked out that way. And, yeah, I think it's a neat element that we've added in the size. But it wasn't something where, we cut smaller forwards or anything like that off the board. They just kind of, that's the way it fell.
Did you entertain any trade, offers for that 3rd pick?
No. People, it was asked along the way, but nothing that I would have even considered.
What about Nestor Sill? What did you like about him?
Oh, yeah, just, again, you like the physical attributes, where big athletic guy that can really move. I think he's got some talent and some really good hockey sense. And again, a raw package that he's going to go to college. So, he's going to be in a situation where he's going to play against some older players and challenge himself, and a good development situation there. And so, I think there's a lot of the similar things we liked with Mason, or why we really like Václav. And so, again, just think there's a really high upside to his tools.
Was there anything that you learned from the last year with AJ Spelzy from the football hockey dynamic that maybe made you more comfortable with Mason West doing?
I don't think there's anything we learned. It's just, I think they're both very, very athletic, and very athletic at an above average size, which is unique. When you can move that well at that size, that is a weapon. That is an asset that you possess. Now you have to be able to play and figure out what's going on the ice, but you know, it's something that we've seen in AJ that Mason does very well too. And so it's that athleticism and that ability to you know, play two sports and do very well in both is, I think it just speaks to their you know, that athletic facility that they have to continue to rise and continue to do things that you want them to do and you want their bodies to, you know, grow into as well. And so it's, I think they're just exciting prospects and exciting packages.
I don't think you're talking from a mile from wrong, but between now and the free agency, anything you're looking to achieve next week or anything?
Not, you know, I think we're going to listen and see what comes our way. Feels like it's been pretty well documented with other GMs that have talked around the league. It's, you know, it feels pretty stagnant. I think the rising cap has made a lot of teams quite comfortable in just trying to add or stick with their current squads. And so that's, I just feel like that's held back player movement a little bit this year. It could be a one-year anomaly, but that's just the way it is right now. And so we'll see if anything comes available that's you know, advantageous for us to jump on. But outside of Andre, we haven't really had that arise on our end. So keep making calls and checking in and seeing what's available to us in the market.
Before you got that third pick, did you try to make a move to get higher up in the round?
No, we did not. I think it was pretty obvious that everything was set. Everything was locked in. And so I can't remember what the first pick that did move was. Maybe it was 12? Was it 12, Pittsburgh? 12? Yeah, so, you know, it seemed pretty locked in there. And so nothing really seemed available. So
On the Burakovsky trade, what was the process behind that?
yeah, I think you know, we felt that Andre brought a little bit of extra speed and extra talent and upside to our roster. You know, I think he had a little injury situation 2 years ago, and then, you know, hasn't really found that form again. But I think we've got a great opportunity for him. You can look back and see when he's played over a certain number of minutes, he has really produced. And I think in our setup, we should have some opportunity for him to get those minutes and get those opportunities. And he's a talented player that can play with good players. And so, you know, where he plays is up to Blash and let him figure that out. But figured it was a nice addition to our top nine to provide another little bit of offensive talent to the group.
How is your experience different with the decentralized draft this year versus
Yeah.
what it has been?
I was saying, like, the lead up, you know, I'm kind of bounce back and forth where there's some things that are nice, some things that, you know, are kind of unique and you know, you like about going to a town. The nice things were you have these really long days at this time of year and you're on the phone all day and you're exhausted. And it was nice to go home and see my daughters rather than go and sit in a hotel room by yourself. You know, that was really nice. I could go see my girls, sit on the couch, just, you can really relax versus, you know, last year in Vegas, you're walking around and there's, you know, slot machines going off and then you're going to your hotel room and the walls are kind of crawling on you. But, you know, I think, but then today, you know, it's nice to be in your setup and in your room and familiar quarters, but it's also pretty cool to walk out onto an arena floor and a full arena. And so, you know, there's different things about it. There's pros and cons, but, you know, see what the NHL decides next year.
No street interviews today?
I never got out onto the street. I never got out there. The guys that were playing men's league noticed me and gave me a wave, but they knew who I was. So, yeah. Yeah.
Do you find, like, maybe you're building a reputation for trades among other GMs and it's making them more receptive to you being able to do that?
Well, certainly Eric Tulsky and I think I traded back into the first with him last year for Merrick Van Acker. So, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Again, with what we're doing with the draft, it's so important to our build that I'm naturally aggressive at the draft. And so that's certainly been, I guess, a hallmark of this period of our rebuild. You know, we'll see as we move forward and shift into a different period and how the draft plays into that. But I don't know. I don't think anyone. Honestly, I don't think anyone thinks of me and thinks, oh, aggressive at the draft table or something like that. But maybe other than Eric. Eric probably thinks that because we gave him a bunch of picks for late first rounders. So I don't know. Probably not.